Hey all, welcome to Share Trek. This is Raj here. And friends, as you have seen in the background, I have a wall with graffiti, which means that I'm in a different mood today. We're not talking about genomics today. I'm going to talk about something that is very close to me and which I have been mulling over for quite a while. It has been rankling me. So I thought, why not share it with you guys? And maybe you can share it with other Canadians that you know. Friends, I'm a proud Canadian. As you can see in my hat here, I usually don't wear a hat, but you can see it has got the maple leaf out there. And I think that Canada is one of the best places in the world. However, it has been almost 25 years since we made the decision to immigrate to Canada and almost 20 years since we immigrated. Today, I think Canada is like a beauty queen who is at the certain age where she looks attractive, but just about. A few more years and things could change. It could change drastically or gradually. So you never know. So that's how it looks like at this point of time. This is not a rant, but by the end of this video, there's a good possibility that it might seem like a tame rant because we are polite Canadians and we don't use swear words very often. It doesn't come naturally. So here it goes. When we left India, we lived and worked in Dublin, Ireland, and even tried to buy a house there to settle down. We reached Ireland at the height of the Celtic Tiger, and jobs were plenty. In fact, we were among the first few Indians to land there on work permits. Ireland is an amazing place. Within a month, we were integrated into the society and had an amazing social life. There was golfing on the weekend, and my friends taught me how to golf. I used to go to the driving range with them. And they got me going, and we used to play 18 holes on weekends. My friend Bob used to be there always, and we would then have a pint of beer. And I think it was Phoenix or Deer Park golf course just at at the hills of Hoth, and from there we could see the sea. And it was a very good time. And then there was those horse races and dog races. We used to go to dog races. We used to create pools for betting on the Liverpool race and the grand, there was another Derby race. So we used to do all those things. It was amazing. And there was a wonderful nightlife also. Some of my younger friends took me out for pub crawls, and it was very interesting. And the beauty about Dublin was that it was it was a country's capital, and it was the biggest city. At the same time, most people knew each other because it was such a small place. So it was amazing. But there were problems too. We were in Dublin when euro currency was released. Even now, I have the first crisp euro notes we took out of the ATM on day one when it was released. However, Ireland is a small economy, and good times come fast and hard, while bad times come quickly and with great fury. So we found that English-speaking job market was too small in Europe. In the event, we lost our jobs. Apart from Ireland, we just had UK. And for UK, you needed to have a separate work permit. So we decided that we need to go elsewhere, and because we had to grow roots, and we said we had to go elsewhere where there is a big English-speaking job market. And that brought us to Canada. We found that Canada had a liberal outlook which matched ours and great quality of life and amazing people. We decided to settle down in Toronto. We arrived here, and Toronto was relatively inexpensive. Within a year, we were able to buy a house, a semi-detached house in a nice locality in the city. We saw decent growth in salary and also felt that we were in a bigger English-speaking job market, because if we were to lose our jobs in Canada, with our Canadian passport, we could have just gone across to US and taken another job under the TN visa, under the NAFTA. So there was no fear of losing job or anything, and things were fine. In fact, at that time, Canada was great. The two of us working together helped us to save quickly and improve our standard of living and quality of life. We were driving BMWs and living in big houses and all that. And it was amazing. And as young people, we did not use medical facilities. We rarely ever had any headache or anything. We were absolutely healthy. But we were proud of our free medical insurance, healthcare system, and our passport allowed us to visit many countries visa-free, and we are absolutely happy. Now I'm close to 60, and I feel very different about what I see around me. As a real estate broker, I also see what new immigrants face when they come to Canada. It's not a pretty picture. It's not the way it was when I immigrated to Canada so many decades ago. What has happened in Canada is that the industry has successfully lobbied the government to keep the immigration tap open so that they have more consumers and cheap labor. Immigrants compete for jobs, And there is almost a oligarchy kind of a thing here. You have two or three telecom companies, you have five big banks, and it's all business groups that are there which own most of the things, and there are very few players. So there isn't real competition, so everything is more expensive in Canada as compared to the United States. Many immigrants with very strong experience are willing to work for less to get their first job. This creates a glass ceiling for established Canadians who are at a high salary level because they don't get any growth, and they are slowly edged out into contract work where they can make more money because they are invoicing the company and they can put it into their corporate structure and draw dividends. But even that is being eroded at this point of time. Right now, there are young students in Toronto who are working one or two jobs and studying in private college or university and cannot afford more than $500 towards rent. As a result, we have hidden poverty because 5 or 6 of such students live in a house which is not in a great locality or in good conditions. The franchisees of fast food joints have a vast pool of such workers who come to Canada with high hopes, and the reality is that they have to work shifts in these franchises at minimum wages and have to live in substandard accommodation. If we have a labor shortage, as industry claims now, it's the best opportunity at this point of time among labor shortage to automate and increase the productivity of the worker. However, the industry is too greedy and does not want to automate where capital expenditure is high. They have automated low-hanging opportunities like grocery checkout, thereby depriving low-skilled employees of the work. These are the people who are at bottom of the financial ladder, and they are losing their livelihood. However, if a factory can improve productivity of a worker by investing in robotic assistants and other specialized software, those things don't seem to be happening as we have cheap labor. And apart from these companies being few in each of the sector, actually the Canadian government periodically pays a ransom of $3 or $4 billion to automobile companies like General Motors and others in order to keep their plant running in Canada. So I'm always thinking, how is it that a company needs the government to pay it 3 or 4 billions in order to be viable to employ labor? So that's a kind of artificial economy, and that doesn't bode very well. But that's what is happening from time to time. General Motors or Ford, they get 2 to 3 billion bailout from the government in order for them to continue having their factory in Canada and continue employing Canadian workers. So it's like socialized corporate sector out here. And Canadian university graduates end up working abroad as Canadian companies do not pay well. As if, for example, if they went to US, they would get much more money and a better climate. Many immigrants come for just the passport and then move to better climates and work environments. Of late, as many as 15 to 20% of immigrants leave Canada. That's the latest statistic. Here is what is happening right now. During COVID, the government gave a lot of subsidies. Then now they are trying to claw back from those who took it despite not being eligible. And that process is still going on, and it's going to take a long time. We also had supply chain issues, and the result was inflation. The central bank has decided to increase interest rate and has been increasing interest rates steadily at a steady clip. And we are at the high 5% at this point of time. And it has caused a lot of problems to regular Canadians who have mortgage. Unlike the United States, in Canada, our mortgages are for a 3-year or a 5-year term. Those on variable rate mortgages were the first to feel the pain because their mortgage has gone up from as low as 1.9% all the way up to 5.7 or 5.8%, which means that many of them are now just paying the interest component and not the principal component. And some are even having their interest component getting added to their principal, and it's ballooning. However, the inflation remained stubborn, so the bank kept on raising the rates. The result was that those renting and saving to buy their own home were ineligible for mortgages, and they continued renting. This meant that the rental stock that would have normally been available was no longer available. At the same time, the Canadian government doubled down on their target of 400,000 immigrants, citing labor shortages causing inflation. The immigrants come with money because they know that they have to tide over until they get the job. So they bring money for 3 or 4 months of living. They are forced to buy food and try to rent because that's the basic requirement on day one when they arrive here. So they may first land up in Airbnb, and after that they have to get into proper long-term accommodation because Airbnb would be too expensive. and there is not enough rental stock to go around. And they have to buy food. So food inflation and rent inflation are the two biggest components of our inflation out here in Canada. Toronto real estate is among the most expensive in the world. With there being a natural shortage of rental units, rents have increased. Typically, as rent increase, investors buy homes and rent it out. However, now investors have to pay high mortgage, and many are not even eligible to buy homes and do not qualify for mortgage. So they are not bringing new stock into the market. Those who purchased condos before COVID and are getting the delivery of the brand new condos now are at the biggest risk. I'm one of those people. The rent that I might get for my condo, even though it is high from the point of view of a tenant, does not cover my mortgage costs, does not cover the property tax that I'm going to pay and the condo fees that I'm going to pay on an ongoing basis. And that's the case with many new landlords who are getting possession of brand new condos at this point of time. Property taxes are continuing to go up. And we cannot sell because at this point of time, there are no buyers capable of paying the break-even cost that I would need in order to dispose of my condo. So I'm going to carry it out and I'm going to rent it out at a loss. But there are many landlords who cannot afford to do that, and they are going to be selling it at a loss. So that's again going to create more people who are trying to become a upper middle class or upper class to come down a notch. So that's a problem that's happening out there. And very soon the new condo units which are coming up like this will be taken up by immigration because they are going to rent. And the immigration is not being paused by the government. As a realtor, daily I get people referred to me, brand new immigrants who are coming in and they want rental accommodation. It's heartbreaking to see 4 or 5 young kids pool their money to get a decent place to live. It's doubly sad when I help new immigrants get a rental because landlords are very, very picky. We have a landlord-tenant board that has a year-long backlog of cases. So landlords want AAA tenants. This means employment letter, credit report from Canada, last 2 landlord references, and a rental application for starters. New immigrants have none of these. Some foreign students from wealthy families offer to pay a year's rent in advance and above list price and corner units. This leaves very little inventory for students from lesser families and new immigrants who have come with 3 or 4 months living expenses in their hand. Now let us turn our attention to what happens to those successful immigrants who came here years ago. I'm one of those. And those who have retired but do real estate investments and equity investments. As I approach 60, I am getting a closer look at our famed healthcare system. It's not so great as it seems. Many people cannot get a family doctors. New immigrants can't get a family doctors. They have to use a walk-in clinic. You see, human body becomes different when you come to Canada. So you may be a great doctor with great experience abroad, but when you immigrate to Canada, you have to requalify. You cannot practice based on your foreign credentials. Once you come here, there are limited intake for foreign doctors to qualify as Canadian doctors. Also, the family doctor is the gatekeeper of the extended medical system that you need if you have a problem that is more than a headache or a scraped knee. To get the appointment of a urologist, cardiologist, or any specialist will involve 6 to 8 months of waiting. In fact, pet healthcare is excellent in Canada as compared to humans. My pet can get an MRI done very quickly and on demand. But for me to get an NRI, I'll be triaged, and unless I have a life-threatening condition, I will not be getting an appointment. This is all because we have shortage of hospital beds. For instance, melanoma surgery, for example, can take months to schedule, and in the meantime, it could spread to other organs. So the reason this is happening is because we have acute shortage of hospital beds. So there are not enough beds, and the hospitals are putting extra beds in the corridors of the hospitals and treating patients on the corridors. If we were to go to emergency, in case it's a weekend and we had a health emergency, it takes 8 hours on an average to get attention based on the severity of injury or condition in the emergency. So in the midst of a severe housing crisis and hospital beds shortage, our brilliant government will not pause immigration. It really confounds me. We welcomed 313K immigrants in 2018 to 2019 period, another 284K in 2019 to 2020, and then another 226K between 2020 to 2021, And then in 2021 to 2022, we boosted up the numbers almost double and immigrated around 493,000 people. And so far, in the first quarter of 2023, the number shows that we have had 145k arrivals. So if you multiply by 4, we are somewhere in the range of around 500,000 plus immigrants for 2023. The big question is, do we have hospital and housing capacity for this rapid population increase? In my opinion, the answer is no. Then we are not even talking about school needs. There are some condos where there is a notice outside which says that we cannot guarantee that your child will be admitted to a school in this area if you get a condo housing here. So there are notices like that turning up in many places. So education is also a problem. Now turning to policy decisions, we have 3 parties. I was a liberal when I came to Canada. No, I don't know what I am. I'm definitely not in tune with what the Liberal Party of Canada is talking about. We have Conservative Party, the Socialist NDP, and the Liberal Party. Our Green Party has been struggling and has not been able to stay afloat. Our government is now compounding its mistake of not pausing immigration by giving $500 one-time subsidy for food to needy families. Now they are talking about giving subsidies to people who are under mortgage stress so that they can retain their homes. This is for people who have mortgages on their principal residence. So you have the central bank tightening the screws to curb inflation, exercising expected monetary policy, while our government is working at cross purposes by providing subsidies and pumping money into the economy. This has the risk of pushing interest rates higher so that more families come under mortgage stress. This is crazy. Those with fixed interest rates of 3 to 5 years term taken before COVID at 1.9% interest will now be coming up for mortgage renewal, and they may not qualify for even their current mortgage because under the new rate, which is as high in the high 5% range, they are not going to be able to qualify. Structurally also, Canada has somehow lost its way. If you earn a decent salary in Canada, you have to pay federal tax. If you are successful and earn between, let us say, 106K to 165K, you will pay 26% federal tax, regardless of the province that you live in. And in Ontario, you will pay a provincial tax of 16%, which takes the total to 42%, which means every dollar you earn, the government takes 42 cents. When you get bonus, you get 58% of the bonus, 42% goes to the government. So basically, they could have put the name of the company, your employer, and the government as the employee, because the government is taking a significant chunk. So that is income tax for you. And then you have consumption tax because you have to pay 13% HST on everything you buy. So that is consumption tax for you. Then you have to pay property tax. You pay water and garbage collection also on top of it. Our Prime Minister is very liberal, but I think he is better than NDP, which is talking about giving a mortgage subsidy. The NDP is supporting the Liberals to stay in power. So their input has got some weight. So I'm afraid that sooner rather than later, those who are struggling with mortgage will be given subsidy. And that is going to be at cross purposes with the central bank policy. Talking of property tax, homeowners are sitting ducks. Retired person living in the same home for 30 years in Canada is sitting on $2 million worth of real estate, if you're talking about somebody living in Toronto. The city of Toronto keeps on increasing property tax. You see, property tax is on assessed value, not on income earned by the owner. Also, if he were to rent his basement, the tenant has a lot of rights and the city has rent control that would prevent him from increasing rent more than 1.5% to 2.5%. That's the kind of increase the city may allow. This makes retired seniors to have to sell their homes and move to further off places in the outskirts of Toronto and beyond, so that they can still live in their own homes. And I think many Canadians, especially in Toronto, are seeing the matrix for what it is and are leaving. One could take a residency in Dubai, which is tax-free and offers golden visa, and move to Dubai and spend winters there and escape the heat in summer and go to cooler climates. However, Canada will tax your real estate and assets as if you have sold them the moment you apply to become a non-resident and get out of this tax bracket. Also, once you become non-residents, you have to fill Form NR6, and 25% of rental income on your rental properties in Canada is withheld for tax, and you have to submit expenses at the end of the year to be eligible to get refunds. There are stiff penalties that can go up to 10% of the default amounts. So to summarize, new immigrants are having a very tough time getting a place to live, and a decent job and putting bread on the table. Established Canadians are finding salary glass ceiling when they reach a certain level of proficiency in their career and a certain level of salary, because the new Canadians who are coming with more experience are willing to work for less just to get started. Retired Canadians are being pushed out of their homes in Toronto to move to more remote towns. In the advent of another pandemic, I believe Toronto does not have enough hospitals or doctors to take care of the population. We now have a new mayor, Olivia Chow of NDP. Last time Toronto had a NDP mayor, I think it was David Miller, it didn't end very well. I'm bracing for property tax increases. The municipality is a bottomless pit that keeps on taking more and more money every year. Well, now you know what I feel about Toronto. It's a mixed bag. I have been very tame. I'm not like someone in the US who rants. I still like my walking trails and friendly neighbors and our way of life. But my savings can go a long way in a low tax regime and a tropical climate and a pay-to-go medical service. And that's the happy medium that I would look forward to in the future. So friends, that's what you need to know about what Canada is all about, what living in Toronto is all about. So I would say that pass on this video to anyone who is planning to immigrate to Canada, or any Canadian that you know, and ask them if there is any truth in what I'm talking about, and put your comments below. That's all for today, my friends. Take care and have a great day. Bye for now.